That was incredibly interesting what Jessica had to say, and I think just watching something like the intro that features America's favorite pastime does a really good job in trying to deliver on moments. But I'm hopefully going to take the next little bit to talk to you about how we at NBC Sports are navigating the complex world of sports rights, appointment viewing, and customer expectations. And I think everybody in this room would probably say the same thing. I was going to do a hands up type of deal, but I'm just going to admit that I doubt anybody is doing it perfectly here. And I think that's probably the first thing to admit, that sessions like this and tools like Airship help us get a lot closer to making things like this actually happen, and being able to take some time in person, meet some folks that are doing it amazingly well around the industry, in and out of your own vertical, I think is incredibly important, and days like this are fantastic. So thank you, Airship team, for having me here. Talk a little bit about who I am very, very quickly, and then more importantly, what we're doing at NBC Sports to try to navigate these interesting waters. I've been in the sports industry my entire career. I worked for a product company in the golf space for a whole heck of a long time, and then moved to NBC Sports and moved from physical products to digital products, experiences, and media, which at the time was incredibly different for me, selling something that you couldn't actually touch. And so that brought a whole separate set of challenges, and we can talk about that today. Trying to compete for people's time and attention is incredibly challenging. So I manage our VP, I'm the VP of Digital Strategy and Partnerships, and manage and look after the businesses that work directly with rights owners, and also within our company to try and maximize the rights that, in effect, we rent for a series of years and try to make the most out of them. And more importantly, my job is try to make our partners happy, but in effect, make those consumers that are consuming the content happy sports fans. Move on to the next here. The opportunity that come with a company like NBC Sports is we really do have an unparalleled collection of media rights, and a mantra around our company is we try to make big events bigger. If you look at the calendar with a portfolio of sports rights like this, ranging from the Olympics to the Super Bowl to the PGA Tour to the Premier League, these are sports that are happening around the world, and it's our job to try and make sure that we're taking each one individually, working with the rights owners, and trying to make them as big as possible. That comes with its challenges, and I can talk about that in just a second. I think the DNA of NBC Sports has been focused on storytelling. If you look at what we do for the Olympics, if you look at what we do in our bigger events, we are televising the content, but we're trying to make sure that over time we're not just showing the sport happening. We're telling you about the people that are participating in it, so you care. Because if you're just watching balls go through a hoop, or golf balls being hit to a green, or balls hitting the back of a soccer net, that's great. That's great for a lot of people that just like to consume sports. But more importantly, I could probably ask you who your favorite football team is, and you have one. I could probably ask you who your favorite quarterback is. Well, now with fantasy, it's a lot different. Sometimes it's who's scoring the most points. But just in general, you probably know why your favorite quarterback is your favorite quarterback, and you have a personal connection to those types of athletes. And I think that's one of the things that we take very seriously at NBC, is just understanding how to tell a story, how to set up a game, how to set up a big moment, and how to extend it. Because calling a football game a 3-hour experience, we'd much rather make it a 3-day experience. We'd like to take a 17-day Olympic venue and event and make it a 35-day event that's happening with a lead-up, an in-game, and then a post-game. And we'll talk about that a little bit too. And appointment viewing, I mentioned, is sort of a term that we use quite often, because I bet if I were to ask you some of your favorite shows on television, when they're actually on TV, you wouldn't know. You might know because some of your favorite services now drop them on particular days, and that's cool. But normally, if I asked you when your favorite crime drama is on, you would say, I don't know, because I just go and watch it on demand. Sports is one of those pieces of content that you still generally make appointment viewing and sit down for on a Sunday morning, on a Saturday afternoon, on a Wednesday evening, whatever. And for us, the mobile app is really a key source of live streaming and VOD first and foremost. We want to make sure that if customers want to see an event happening live or follow up and watch either key takeaways or lead ups to the event. In our media business, this is where we make the majority of our revenue, but we also have a fantastic group of people that are building editorial insights and using our data layer to provide real-time updates, stats, and scores. The challenges really come, though, when we're trying to meet the needs of specific fans in an ecosystem where everybody is a different sort of level of fan for different sports. So I'll use my favorite sports fan, Greg, over here. He may be a fanatic of football. He may be a general casual fan of the Premier League, and he may just be a guy that likes to watch a golf tournament once in a while. The way that I talk to Greg about football, Premier League, and golf has to be authentic, number one, has to be timely, and it certainly can't be too much. We talked about just getting bombarded with this concept of blast messaging. We need to be able to understand how a customer wants to be spoken to, when they want to be spoken to, and how often. Expanding the interest and excitement over a period of time is really tough to do in these days because I think, as Jessica said, you're being bombarded with all of these various stimuli. And it isn't just what's on your phone, it's work, it's family, and I know one of the least favorite acronyms that my team has recently engaged with is RTW, Return to Work. So it was really nice to be able to sort of maybe do the job with business up here and shorts on and all that stuff below, and be able to check in and out, dog walks, runs, things like that aren't really as easy when you have an hour or two train ride in each direction. It does actually give you a little bit more time to maybe focus on some of the content you didn't catch up on, though. I will say that. But tailoring and amplifying to unique attributes of each sport, the football fan knows and understands the way that they want to be communicated to, which is incredibly different than the way a golf fan or Premier League fan wants to be communicated to. So understanding those unique attributes of what makes a sport interesting, what makes a sport timely, what are the things that make the sport unique, because game alerts and halftime reports and end-of-game results are fine, but they're really not what people are looking for. If it's appointment viewing, they know it's on anyways. So we need to understand what the unique attributes are of each sport and be able to deliver those. And then this one is just more personal, that we're in a very advantageous position that NBC has this great portfolio of rights, and it takes a long time to negotiate them, and generally they're multi-year deals that have a lot of implications for linear and cable and digital. We don't immediately get 10 new people in our digital space when we add the Big Ten, for instance. We just added the Big Ten recently. We just upped our deal with the NFL. We don't automatically get 5 or 10 new people to help to increase our messaging and pay off the additional rights fees that we're paying to the leagues to make that stuff happen. We need to figure out how to work smarter. We need to be able to take advantage of tools, and we just need to really sit back and say, is the messaging and are the strategies that we're working on, are they making sense for the fan first and foremost, but are they making sense for us too? We want to make sure that the people that are working within NBC Sports and hopefully working on sports that they love and are passionate about don't get burned out because of the expectations of all of this tonnage that we have at our disposal. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to provide a 360 experience around the sporting event. We talked about this, trying to increase the event and make it bigger. We need pregame insights. So who are the experts that we've contracted with to give us their expert opinion? Why should you care about the game? What should you be looking for? Whether it be in the fantasy space, that's been huge. Betting and gaming has become amazingly large in the last few years. Those are two incredibly different spaces, even though people lump them together. Fantasy and gaming are two totally different things. What are we doing during the game once the ball is in the air? our job doesn't stop. It actually becomes more important for us to be timely and relevant. And then, what does the game mean? Once the event is over, there are plenty of people that love to Monday morning quarterback, and that is not only the experts that we work with, but it's all of you. You walk in on Monday to a water cooler or whatever it is now that dispenses water that you don't have to touch, talking about the game and what you thought, and can't believe that so-and-so made the call to put this guy in at the end, or you can't believe they didn't go for 2 because they were expecting to get the ball back on the onside kick, things like that. And those are the things that are mattering, and how are we providing the full 360 experience to customers through our products. And then the content forms that those analyses are taking are in live streaming, VOD, text articles, scoring and statistics, and anything else that's new that we feel like could catch a customer's interest and could provide them a deeper understanding of what their favorite sport means. So here we go. How do we get the win? I think one of the more interesting things is, and I haven't had a chance to meet every one of you here, but I don't think you're here today without being a savvy business person, a savvy marketer, a savvy communicator, that when you're walking into challenges, you don't walk in without a plan. But I do remember this, and this is somebody that I was talking to just the other day. A colleague reminded me of this great quote from a super wise man, which is, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And this was, Mike Tyson has said this in a number of different times, but they had asked him back in the day about a fight with Evander Holyfield or something. And Evander Holyfield had this plan to beat Mike Tyson, and he goes, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And I think that's, in sports specifically, this is incredibly important to us because this happens all the time. Sports are supposed to come on at 1, ball in the air at 1, game's over at 3:50, transition to the next one. What could happen? What could possibly happen? Injuries, weather, you name it. There are hurricanes happen. And so we need to be able to be nimble, and we need to be able to adjust. And we almost have to plan on the idea of chaos in the sports realm, because these things happen way more than they don't. Okay? So it's really a 3-phase plan, and this is something that I try to break down and talk to my teams about, is that it really does start with people. Because it's not a given that you always have the right teams to be in a scenario like ours and be able to execute flawlessly. There are a lot of people that are incredibly good at their job, but can they work together? They have to understand that there is so much to do on our side of the business, covering so many things that are happening at once, is that they just need to understand that they can't do it alone. With as many tools as that they have, they can't do it alone. And it's just, they have to understand that technology is great, but it's really a tool and a means to an end. They have to understand what we're all working on together. And until there's a full world of AI domination, I think we just need to understand that the things that are at our disposal are just that, tools. And I think when it comes right down to it, you still have to put yourself in the shoes of the fan and try to understand how they need to be serviced and how they'd like to be serviced. The next is the plan, and for us, I heard a lot of this earlier, is that you need to understand the sports fan themselves and develop a system that works for them. You can have the best plan that you think you can create, but if the timing's wrong, if the messaging's wrong, it's not working for the fan, and you just need to understand that if you don't put the fan first, you're putting your business last. Here's the type of approach that we would take in implementing this playbook. We have to understand the customer's communication preferences, both implicit and explicit. We have to align the content and channels to align with our own objectives. So if you think about the way that a mobile experience works, we're trying to drive people to download or to open an app, and that's only sort of step one. Is that what do you do after you get the app open? What are we encouraging folks to do? So that's a push to open and an in-app to engage with various types of content. I love the idea of, what did you say, batch and blast? we need to build segments to understand how and when these people need to receive the messages. If you look in our instance of Airship, we have hundreds of different ways to interact with our customers depending on sport, time, and engagement. And you need to provide an easy way for them to modify, change up what they want. I love this, I want more. This is too much, I want less. So we have an example here of how ours works in the NBC app. Customer can very easily just go in and adjust their settings in the preference center. I know this probably isn't gonna, well, yeah, there we go. We want the Patriots. I know this is probably a hostile environment as a Patriots fan, but I know I have a couple of friends here. My accent falls out once in a while. It's there, believe me. And thanks to the Airship team for helping with that video there. And then finally is perform. There is one point when you just have to lock and load and you have to go. And I heard earlier about this analysis paralysis, or just wanting to get it absolutely perfect before you execute. I'm just coming from a technology background now for so long. It's so much easier to start small and learn and iterate some more, and learn and iterate again. Because when you bundle everything together, your perfect plan, you bundle everything together, you push it out, ta-da! Everybody hates it. And you wonder, what was it that they hated? And it's like, you don't know. You don't know. You made 15 changes and you have no way to identify what change you made that made the customer unhappy. And so my personal opinion is you start small and iterate, and you try to learn from that. And I don't know about you all, but I think there's tons of data available, but I'm just not sure that it's always packed with insights. If you go to an analytics team and say, give me all the data on app downloads, or what do my monthly active users look like, or show me the page views and growth, and they dump it on you. And then you say, what does it mean? And there's crickets. And I think that gap between tonnage and data and insights is really the key element, because the raw data is one thing. The insights lead to the iterative changes, and if you don't have the insight on those iterative changes, how do you get to the finish line? Like, you don't even need to get to the finish line. You just need to keep pushing it down the field. And so I think there's a lot of people that are also afraid, to some degree, to take the data and work to develop actionable changes, because they may not feel they're empowered to do so. They may be an analyst that has only been with the company for 6 months or a year. But it's like, but that's what we hired you for. We hired you to be an analyst. We hired you to understand the data and give us actionable recommendations. Some people are afraid to go to an executive because what's failed is the executive's idea, right? I mean, they always have great ideas. They toss them across the table and just expect them to happen. I think the executive that is worth their salt will be prouder of the person to come in and tell you that we tried it, it didn't work, we have to move on. Like, now we have to move on. I personally would love that. And I always try to have an open forum with my teams that you can't have pride of authorship, because that leads you down a rabbit hole of just bloated, inconsistent, and non-performant products. So just showing some examples here. I'm going to take you through a case study of Sunday Night Football to finish up today. We have one for each one of the sports that I showed up there. We message about every sport, but this is by far one of our biggest, closest relationships. And this just shows at the start of Sunday. We have a lot of great acronyms here, so I'll try to explain what they are. Sunday Night Football, SNF. Biggest show in prime time for 11 straight years, is going to be 12 straight years. And that's sports and or entertainment. It leads off with FNIA, Football Night in America. And it really does sort of harken back to that idea of the game's fine, matchup's fine, can't wait till the ball's in the air, but what does all this stuff mean? The shoulder programming for us helps us extend the extend the interest, helps us make the big event even bigger. So we're alerting people that Football Night in America is starting. Even if kickoff is at 9 o'clock, you need to join us an hour early to figure out what it's all going to be about. We need to get the insight from all the experts that we have. Halftime alerts, start of fourth quarter. Hopefully we have a really good game. Some of our Sunday Night Football games have not been the most competitive. So we always wish for a really solid game. What can we do to drive customers that either may not be engaged or may just be coming home for an event that they couldn't catch the first three quarters? How do we get them in? You don't necessarily always have to watch the full game for Nielsen to identify that you're a watcher. And games are long these days. Sometimes, just to get you to tune in is a good thing to be able to root your team on to victory. And then after the fact, what are we doing to package up highlights, to package up insights, and hear from these experts about what the game meant and what does it mean for future games in the season? This is funny because it doesn't stop. We always say, does football start on Monday or does it start on Sunday? Because one leads into the other. So once you get going, you don't stop until February. And this is an example here of an alert that on Monday morning after an SNF, we have an FMIA, Football Morning in America. And Peter King writes approximately 10,000 words at the end of Sunday and into Monday morning. It gets edited incredibly early in the morning and posted. If you haven't read it, it's incredible. And to be able to write that much over the evening and to have our team edit it and post it on a Monday morning is quite amazing. Pushing to his thoughts on the week that was and the week that is to come. Pro Football Talk, this is Mike Florio. He is by far the biggest content velocity engine in our entire company. He helps so much in the amount of content he pushes out of his channels at Pro Football Talk, PFT. And we have video and articles that are being produced by both him and his team daily and throughout the season, and not just throughout the year, not just at the season. And then this is your game prep. This is all right. You're in the middle of the week. What am I going to get excited about? I have to set my lineups. We just welcomed another gentleman named Matthew Berry, who is our fantasy expert, and traffic has shown his presence on our platforms. He's been amazing to add to our stable, and then we add to that somebody like Chris Sims, who is there all week, and is really a fantastic complement to all the rest of our stable of experts. So these are the types of messages that we send throughout the week to either tell you about the week that was, to tell you about the week that is to come. Here's just some results that we've been able to see. This is last September 21, so beginning of football season. We talked about some of the category engagements earlier. I think Tom and Brett showed it. And throughout the sports category, that's the dotted line. And then our app, as you can see, has approximately a 17% lift in retention. That's download and engagement within 30 days. You think it makes sense during a football season. I expect to see this with our new talent and some of the things we've done in 22. This to see significant increases in 22. So looking forward to the end of September in a few days to be able to pull those numbers. And then here are some NFL specific segment numbers that our initiatives, 133 million push messages sent to the NFL audience, and that's attributed 3.6 million app sessions for the NFL audience. And if you think about the way that NBC Sports makes the majority of its revenue, it is done through advertising and adjacencies to either live streaming or VOD. We make a percentage of our revenue through traditional banner advertising and integrations, but normally it's through advertising. So the more that we can do here, the more app opens and interactions it creates to drive more revenue for us. So this is huge within the app space, and I think we saw the use of devices increasing, exploding as far as the amount of content that people consume in their hand now these days. So the more we can do here and the more we can do based on some of the strategies I talked to you about earlier, really produce what we're looking for not only football, but for the rest of our portfolio. So that's it for me today. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. If anybody is a sports fan, I know there's probably a couple of you out there. I'll be around later to talk and just toss it back.